My name is Elena. I am 29 years old. For the vast majority of my life, I have existed within my family structure not as a person, but as a function. I was the reliable one. The quiet one. The one who did not need to be asked because she would simply observe a need and fill it. If a glass of red wine was spilled on the white carpet during Thanksgiving dinner, I was on my knees scrubbing it out before anyone else even stopped laughing at the joke that caused the spill. If my sister Sarah forgot to pick up her dry cleaning before a wedding, I was the one driving across the city in rush hour traffic to retrieve it. If my brother Mark needed a last-minute loan to cover his rent, because he had spent his paycheck on a new gaming console, my bank account was the silent safety net that caught him. I thought that this was love. I thought that being useful was the rent I had to pay to occupy space in their lives. I believed that if I just worked hard enough, if I sacrificed enough of my own comfort, eventually they would look at me and see me. Not the babysitter, not the fix-it girl, not the ATM, but me, Elena. This Christmas was supposed to be the breaking point, but not in the way they expected. It was supposed to be the first Christmas I spent entirely on my own terms. For 8 months, I had been secretly planning an escape. I worked overtime shifts at the law firm where I am a paralegal. I skipped lunch breaks to save money. I declined dinner invitations from friends. I lived on instant noodles and determination because I had a vision that was keeping me alive. That vision was a cabin in Aspen. It was small, secluded, and exorbitantly expensive for a single week, but it promised the one thing my family had never given me: peace. I pictured myself sitting by a roaring fire, drinking wine that cost more than $10 a bottle, and reading a book without hearing a child scream or my mother criticize my hair. It was December 10th, 2 weeks before the holiday chaos was set to descend. I was sitting at my kitchen table, my laptop open. On the screen was the confirmation page for my flight. I had just clicked the button. The ticket was non-refundable. The cabin was paid for. For the first time in my life, I felt a physical sensation of lightness in my chest. I was actually going to do it. I was going to choose myself. And then my phone rang. The screen lit up with the word mother. A knot formed in my stomach instantly. It is a Pavlovian response I have developed over 2 decades. When that phone rings, it usually means something is wrong, and I am the only one who can fix it. I took a deep breath, steeling myself, and swiped to answer. "Hello, Mother," I said, trying to keep my voice casual. "Elena." Her voice was shrill, vibrating with an energy that I immediately recognized. It was her planning voice. The voice she used when she had concocted a grand scheme and needed to move the chess pieces into place. You will never guess what I have managed to pull off. My stomach tightened further. "What have you done?" I asked. "You know how Sarah and Mark have been so stressed lately?" She began bypassing my question entirely. "Sarah has been working so hard with the 3 boys, and Mark and his wife are just exhausted with the twins. They really need a break, a real break. So I was talking to your Aunt Linda, and she told me about this exclusive adults-only winter gala at the Grand Hotel downtown. It is impossible to get tickets, Elena. Impossible. But you know me. I pulled some strings, I called in some favors, and I got tickets for everyone. I waited for the other shoe to drop. I knew it was coming. The word everyone in my mother's vocabulary had a very specific definition. It usually meant everyone who mattered. That sounds nice for them, I said cautiously. It is going to be magical, she continued, steamrolling over me. Formal wear, a live orchestra, a 5-course dinner. We are going to have the most elegant Christmas Eve we have had in years. Finally, some adult time without the chaos of the grandchildren running around and breaking things. I paused. I gripped the edge of my table so hard my knuckles turned white. If everyone is going to the gala, I asked slowly, then who is watching the children? There was a silence on the other end of the line. It was not a confused silence. It was an expectant silence. The kind of silence a teacher leaves when she waits for a student to give the obvious answer. "Well, you are." "Of course," my mother said. Her tone was light, breezy, as if she had just suggested that the sky was blue. I felt the blood drain from my face. "Excuse me?" "Oh, do not be silly, Elena." She laughed, but there was an edge to the laugh. A warning. It is the perfect solution. You are the only one who does not have a spouse. You do not have children of your own to worry about. You are flexible. And the kids absolutely adore you. It will be fun. You can order pizza, watch movies, and have a little slumber party with all 5 of them at Sarah's house. It solves everything. 5 children. Sarah's 3 boys, aged 6, 8, and 10. They were rowdy, undisciplined, and had a tendency to destroy furniture. And Mark's twins, who were 2 years old and currently in a biting phase. She wanted me to watch 5 children alone on Christmas Eve, while they drank champagne and celebrated. Mother, I said, my voice trembling slightly, I cannot watch the kids. What do you mean you cannot? The sweetness evaporated from her voice instantly, replaced by the sharp, cold tone of a general whose soldier was stepping out of line. I mean, I have plans, I said. I booked a trip. I'm going to Aspen. I leave on the 23rd. There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing on the other end. A trip? She repeated, as if I had said I was going to the moon. Since when do you take trips? Since I saved up for 8 months to pay for one, I said, trying to find my courage. I told you back in July that I wanted to do something for myself this year. You say things like that all the time, Elena. She dismissed me. I did not think you were serious. Besides, this is family. This is Christmas. You cannot just abandon your family to go sit in the snow by yourself. That is selfish. Selfish. That word again. The weapon she had used to carve away my boundaries since I was a child. It is not selfish to want a holiday, I argued, though I could feel my resolve shaking under the weight of her disapproval. I have already paid for the tickets. They are non-refundable. Well, you will just have to lose the money then, she said matter-of-factly. Listen to me, Elena. Sarah has already bought a dress. Mark has already booked the limousine. I have told everyone that you are handling the children. They are counting on you. If you back out now, you are ruining Christmas for your sister, your brother, and me. Do you really want to be the person who ruins Christmas? I closed my eyes. I could see the trap closing around me. She had set it up perfectly. She had made the promises on my behalf without my consent, knowing that once the expectations were set, I would be too guilty to break them. She was weaponizing my own empathy against me. Mom, please, I tried one last time. It is 5 kids. That is too much for one person. You are good with them, she said, her voice softening now that she sensed she was winning. You are a natural. And think about how happy you will make your sister. She has been so depressed lately. She really needs this night. You can take a trip any weekend, but this is a once-in-a-lifetime event. Just do this for me, Elena. Be the good daughter I know you are. The good daughter, the compliant daughter, the invisible daughter. I looked at my laptop screen. The confirmation number for my flight stared back at me. I looked at the photo of the cabin I had saved as my desktop background. I cannot promise anything, I said weakly. I knew you would understand, she said triumphantly, taking my hesitation as a surrender. I will tell Sarah to drop the boys off at your place on the 23rd so you can all go to her house together. Oh, thank you, darling. You are saving us. She hung up before I could say another word. I sat there in the silence of my kitchen. My heart was pounding against my ribs. I felt sick. Physically sick. I had not said yes. I had said I could not promise anything. But in her mind, that was a yes. In her mind, my needs were so insignificant that they could be swept aside with a single conversation. I looked at my phone. A notification popped up from the family group chat. Sarah, Mom says Elena is taking the kids. Thank God. I was about to lose my mind. Best sister ever. Mark. Serious lifesaver. Does anyone know if Elena is okay with the twins having sugar? We are trying to cut back, but it is Christmas. Mother, she's fine with it. She is excited to have some bonding time. They were discussing me. They were planning my time, my energy, and my holiday without a single one of them asking me directly. They were not celebrating me. They were celebrating the fact that they had found a place to dump their responsibilities. Something inside me snapped. It was not a loud snap. It was not a scream or a thrown object. It was a quiet, cold fracture in the foundation of my loyalty. I looked at the group chat. I typed out a response. Actually, I cannot do it. I have a trip. My thumb hovered over the send button. I knew what would happen if I sent it. The guilt trips. The crying phone calls. Sarah accusing me of hating her children. Mark calling me ungrateful. My mother telling the entire extended family that I was having a mental breakdown. I deleted the message. I stared at the phone. They wanted to pretend that I had agreed. They wanted to believe that my life was theirs to command. Fine, let them believe it. I stood up and walked to my bedroom. I pulled my suitcase out of the closet. I did not cancel my flight. I did not cancel the cabin. I did not request a refund for the wine delivery I had scheduled. I continued to pack. If they were going to ignore my voice, I was going to let them experience my silence. If they were going to treat me like a piece of furniture that would always be there when they needed to sit down, they were going to learn very quickly what happens when you try to sit on a chair that has been removed. The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in dissociation. I went to work. I smiled at my colleagues. I answered my mother's phone calls with short, non-committal noises. So, Sarah is going to drop the boys off at 10 in the morning on Christmas Eve, my mother would say. Make sure you have plenty of snacks. The boys are always hungry. I would say. And Mark will bring the twins by noon? Do not let them nap too late or they will be up all night, right? I would reply. I never said yes. I never said no. I simply let them fill the silence with their own assumptions. It was a dangerous game, and I knew it. I knew that the moment the clock struck 10 on Christmas Eve, the bomb I was building would detonate. But as I listened to them talk about their dresses, their dinner reservations, and their relief at being child-free, my fear was replaced by a cold, hard determination. They had built a house of cards on the back of my submission. It was time to see if it could stand without me. 2 days before I was scheduled to leave, I went to the store. I bought travel-sized toiletries. I bought a new pair of snow boots. I stopped by the pharmacy and picked up a prescription. While I was waiting in line, my phone buzzed. It was Sarah. Hey, just wanted to check if you have a playpen for the twins. Mark forgot his and he does not want to buy a new one. Can you pick one up? Mom says you have plenty of space in your living room. I stared at the message. Pick one up. Not, can you do us a favor? Not, we will pay you back. Just an order. Another task for the servant. I did not reply. Instead, I opened my banking app. I transferred a significant amount of money from my savings to my checking account. I wanted to have extra cash on hand. If the fallout from this was as bad as I thought it would be, I might need to extend my stay. Or perhaps never come back at all. The night before my flight, the 22nd of December, my mother called me one last time. Everything is all set, she chirped. We are so excited, Elena. I hope you are ready for a house full of energy. I am ready for exactly what I deserve, I said quietly. What was that? She asked. I said I hope you all have the Christmas you are expecting, I replied. Oh, we will. It is going to be perfect. Get some rest, honey. You have a big job ahead of you. She had no idea. I hung up the phone and placed it on the kitchen counter. My apartment was spotless. My bags were packed and waiting by the door. I had emptied the refrigerator. I had taken out the trash. The space looked like no one lived there. It looked like a hotel room waiting for a guest who might never arrive. I went to bed early, but I did not sleep. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the city sounds outside. I replayed every Christmas from the last 10 years in my mind. The year I had the flu and spent the entire day cooking dinner for 12 people while shivering, because my mother said it would be rude to cancel. The year Sarah brought her new puppy and it chewed up my favorite heels, and everyone laughed and told me I should have put them away, even though they were in my own bedroom. The year Mark forgot to buy me a gift, so he wrapped up a half-used gift card he found in his wallet, and I had to smile and say thank you while he bragged about the diamond earrings he bought his wife. Each memory was a brick in the wall I was building. Each instance of disrespect was fuel for the fire I was about to light. My alarm went off at 4 in the morning. I got up. I showered. I dressed in comfortable travel clothes. I put on my coat and my new boots. I grabbed my suitcase. I stood by the door and looked back at my apartment. It was silent. It was safe. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. I opened the family group chat. There were already new messages from the early risers. Mark, who is excited for the gala? Suit is picked up. Sarah, just doing final packing for the kids. Elena, I am throwing in some extra laundry for the boys. Hope you do not mind washing it. They ran out of clean socks. I felt a surge of rage so pure it almost made me dizzy. Laundry. She was sending me her laundry. I did not type a response. Not yet. The timing had to be perfect. I walked out of my apartment and locked the door. I took the elevator down to the lobby. The doorman, Mr. Henderson, was there. Early flight, Miss Elena? He asked with a kind smile. Yes, Mr. Henderson, I said. A very early flight. Going anywhere nice? Aspen, I said, and the word tasted like honey. I'm going to see the mountains. Good for you, he said. You work too hard. You deserve a break. Thank you, I said. I think I finally do. I got into the taxi that was waiting for me. As we pulled away from the curb and merged into the pre-dawn traffic, I watched the city blur past the window. Every mile we put between me and my apartment felt like a chain snapping. I arrived at the airport. I checked my bag. I went through security. I bought a coffee and a croissant. I sat at the gate and watched the sun rise over the tarmac. Boarding began. I waited until my group was called. I walked down the jet bridge. I found my seat. Window seat. Row 12. I buckled my seatbelt. The pilot announced that we were preparing for takeoff. It was time. I took my phone off airplane mode for one last second. I opened the group chat. I took a photo of my hand holding a glass of pre-flight champagne with the airplane wing visible through the window. I typed a message. I am not sure who is watching the children this year, but it certainly will not be me. I told Mom 2 weeks ago I had a trip. I am taking off now. Do not call me. I hit send. Then, I immediately switched my phone to airplane mode and turned it off completely. I leaned my head back against the seat as the plane began to taxi. I closed my eyes. I could imagine the scene that was about to unfold on the ground. I could imagine the vibration of phones in pockets, the confused glances, the slow dawning of horror. But for the first time in my life, I did not care. The engines roared to life, pushing me back into my seat, and as we lifted off the ground, I left the guilt, the obligation, and the 5 children behind me. I was free. But I knew, even as I watched the clouds envelop the wing, that this was only the beginning. The silence I had created was just the calm before the storm. And when I landed, I would have to face the hurricane I had just unleashed. The flight to Aspen took 4 hours. For most people, a 4-hour flight in economy class is an inconvenience. For me, it was a sanctuary. For 4 hours, no one called my name. No one asked me to locate a missing toy. No one handed me a juice box to open. I sat in silence, watching the clouds shift beneath me, feeling a strange sensation returning to my limbs. It was the feeling of autonomy. My body belonged to me again. When the pilot announced our descent, I looked out the window. The world below was a blanket of white. Snow-covered pines stretched out like an army of silent sentinels. It was clean. It was cold. It was everything my mother's house was not. We landed and the plane taxied to the gate. The seatbelt sign turned off with a soft ding. Around me, passengers immediately reached for their phones, eager to reconnect with the world. I hesitated. My hand hovered over my phone. I knew what was waiting for me on that device. I knew that the moment I reconnected to the network, the peace I had cultivated for the last few hours would be assaulted. But I also knew I had to look. I had to know if the bomb had detonated. I pressed the power button. The screen lit up. The Apple logo appeared. Then the home screen loaded. For a split second, nothing happened. Then the phone began to vibrate. It did not just buzz, it convulsed in my hand. It was a continuous, angry spasm of notifications. The numbers on the red badges climbed so fast they were a blur. 42 missed calls, 87 text messages, 15 voicemails, 30 notifications from the family group chat. I did not open them immediately. I walked off the plane, navigated through the small wood-paneled airport, and collected my suitcase. I walked out into the biting cold air of Colorado. It was sharp and refreshing, filling my lungs with ice. I hailed a taxi and gave the driver the address of the cabin. Only when I was settled in the back seat, moving away from civilization and up into the mountains, did I unlock my phone. I opened the group chat first. It was like reading the transcript of a plane crash in real time. The first messages, sent immediately after my takeoff photo, were fueled by denial. Sarah. Very funny, Elena. You got me for a second. Where are you actually? Mark, nice Photoshop. Hurry up, the twins are getting restless. Mother, stop playing games, Elena. It is not cute. Get over here. Then, about 45 minutes later, the tone shifted. Doubt had started to creep in. Sarah. Mom, she's not answering her calls. It goes straight to voicemail. Mark, I just called her apartment landline. No answer. Mother, she's probably just driving. She likes to be dramatic. She will be here. Then came the panic. This was likely around the time Sarah arrived at my building. Sarah, I am at her apartment. Mr. Henderson, the doorman, says he saw her leave at 4 in the morning with a suitcase. He said she went to the airport. Sarah, Mom, she's actually gone. Mark, what do you mean gone? We have reservations. I paid a deposit on the limo. Sarah, her apartment is empty. The fridge is empty. There is nothing here. She actually left. And finally, the rage. The pure, unfiltered entitlement that I had been catering to for my entire life. Mother, you ungrateful little brat. Pick up the phone right now. Sarah, you are ruining Christmas. Who is going to watch the boys? I have a dress fitting. Mark, this is insane. You cannot just abandon your family on a holiday. What is wrong with you? I read every single message. I scrolled through the insults, the threats, the desperate pleas. I expected to feel guilty. I waited for that familiar heavy weight to settle in my chest, the one that usually compelled me to apologize and fix everything, but it did not come. Instead, I felt a bubble of laughter rising in my throat. It was absurd. They were adults. Sarah was 32. Mark was 35. My mother was 60. And they were unraveling completely because the person they relied on to tie their shoes was not there to do it for them. The taxi pulled up to the cabin. It was perfect. And a frame structure nestled in the trees with large windows overlooking the valley. Smoke was already curling from the chimney as the rental service had prepared the fire for my arrival. I paid the driver and dragged my suitcase through the snow to the front door. I keyed in the code. I stepped inside. The silence was profound. There was no television blaring cartoons. There were no arguments about who stole whose toy. There was just the crackle of the fire and the hum of the refrigerator. I unpacked slowly. I hung up my coat. I poured myself a glass of the expensive red wine that had been delivered. I sat down on the plush leather sofa in front of the fire. I could have left my phone off. I could have disappeared for the week and let them spiral. But the curiosity was too strong. I wanted to see them. I wanted them to look at me, comfortable and safe, while they burned in the hell of their own making. My phone buzzed again. It was a video call request from my mother. I took a sip of wine. I adjusted my hair. I accepted the call. My mother's face filled the screen. She looked deranged. Her usually pristine hair was falling out of its clip. Her face was flushed red. Her eyes were wide with a mixture of fury and panic. Behind her, the background was a masterpiece of chaos. I could hear screaming. Not just crying, but the high-pitched, ear-splitting shrieks of overstimulated children who had sensed weakness in the adults. I saw a blur of motion as a child ran past the camera, followed by my brother Mark, who looked like he had not slept in days. "Elena!" my mother screamed. The audio was distorted because she was shouting so close to the microphone. "Where are you? How dare you answer the phone so calmly?" "Hello, Mother," I said. My voice was steady. "I am in Aspen. I told you I would be in Aspen." Sarah pushed her way into the frame. She was wearing a silk bathrobe that was stained with something orange. Probably juice. Or vomit. "You need to come back right now." Sarah yelled, "Get on the next flight. The boys are tearing the house apart. Mom cannot handle all 5 of them, and Mark and I are supposed to leave for the gala in 2 hours." "That sounds like a problem," I said, leaning back so they could see the stone fireplace behind me. "But it is not my problem." "What do you mean it is not your problem?" Sarah screeched. "You are our sister. You promised. I never promised. I corrected her sharply. Mom promised. I told Mom 2 weeks ago that I was not available. She chose to lie to you. She chose to gamble your Christmas plans on the hope that she could bully me into submission. She lost. My mother spluttered, her face turning a deeper shade of crimson. I did not lie. I knew you would come around. You always come around. This is a family emergency, Elena. Lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine, I said. It was a line I had read in a book once, and saying it out loud felt like firing a cannon. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the speakers. Oh my God! Mark shouted from the background. Tyler just knocked over the Christmas tree. My mother whipped her head around. No, my vintage ornaments. The ones from Germany. I watched as the camera shook. My mother ran off screen. I could hear the shattering of glass. I could hear Mark swearing. I could hear the twins wailing in unison, a harmony of distress. Sarah stayed on the screen, staring at me with hatred. Look at what you did, she hissed. You did this. You caused this. I took another sip of wine. I did not push the tree over, Sarah. Your son did. Because you were on the phone yelling at me instead of parenting him. You are a monster, she spat. I am a person on vacation, I replied. And frankly, this view is much better than the view of your living room floor. My mother came back to the phone. She was holding a broken glass bauble, tears streaming down her face. Please, Elena. Please. I will pay you. I will pay for your flight back. I will give you double whatever that trip cost. Just come home. We cannot do this. And there it was, the naked truth. They did not miss my company. They did not miss my jokes or my smile. They missed my labor. They missed the buffer I provided between them and the consequences of their own lives. You cannot pay me enough, I said softly. Elena, do not be like this, my mother pleaded, her anger shifting to desperation. We are drowning here. Then you better learn to swim, I said. I moved my thumb to the red button. Wait, my mother cried out. If you hang up, do not bother coming to Christmas dinner next year. Do not bother coming around at all. I looked at her. I looked at the chaos behind her. The toppled tree. The screaming children. The miserable adults who had spent years making me feel small so they could feel big. I think I can live with that, I said. I ended the call. The screen went black. The screaming stopped. The cabin was silent again, save for the crackling of the fire. I sat there for a long time, staring at my reflection in the dark glass of the phone. My heart was pounding, but it was not from fear. It was the adrenaline of freedom. I had done the unthinkable. I had said no, and the world had not ended. Well, their world had ended. But mine was just beginning. I turned my phone off completely. I placed it in a drawer in the kitchen. For the next 5 days, I did not exist to them. I slept until noon. I read 3 novels. I soaked in the hot tub while snow fell on my face. I ate chocolate for dinner. I walked through the woods and listened to the wind in the trees. Every now and then, a phantom worry would tap me on the shoulder. I would wonder if they had managed to salvage the gala. I would wonder if the twins had eaten. But then I would remember the look on Sarah's face when she called me a monster for refusing to be her servant, and the worry would dissolve. They were adults. They had resources. They had money. If they were miserable, it was because they had built a life that required a sacrificial lamb to sustain it, and the lamb had finally run away. But as the 28th of December approached, I knew the reality was waiting for me back in the city. I had won the battle, but the war was far from over. Leaving was the easy part. Returning to the wreckage, facing the guilt and holding the line I had just drawn in the snow, that was going to require a strength I was not sure I possessed. I packed my bag on the final morning with a sense of grim determination. I was going back, but I was not going back as the same person who had left. That Elena, the doormat, the backup plan, the ghost, she had stayed in the city. The woman returning was someone entirely new. I caught my flight home. I took a taxi from the airport to my apartment. I did not go to my mother's house. I did not call Sarah. I went to my own sanctuary. My apartment was cold and quiet. I unpacked my laundry. I watered my plants. I waited. I knew they would come. They could not help themselves. They needed to have the last word. They needed to punish me for my rebellion. It took 2 days. On the afternoon of New Year's Eve, my buzzer rang. I walked to the intercom. I pressed the button. Yes? I asked. It is Mom. My mother's voice came through the speaker. It sounded tired, stripped of its usual sharp edges. And Sarah is here too. Let us up, Elena. We need to talk. I hesitated. My thumb hovered over the unlock button. I could leave them standing in the cold. I could tell them to go away. But that would be running, and I was done running. Come up, I said. I unlocked the door. I put the kettle on for tea. I went to the living room and sat in my favorite armchair. I crossed my legs. I clasped my hands in my lap. I heard the elevator ding. I heard footsteps in the hallway. Then a knock on my door. I took a deep breath. Come in, I called out. The door opened. My mother and Sarah walked in. They looked terrible. My mother, usually so put together, had dark circles under her eyes. Sarah looked like she had aged 5 years and 5 days. There was no anger in their posture anymore. There was only defeat. They walked into the living room and stood there looking at me. I did not stand up. I did not offer them a hug. I gestured to the sofa opposite me. Sit, I said. They sat. For a long moment, no one spoke. The air in the room was thick with unspoken accusations and the debris of a holiday that had gone spectacularly wrong. My mother spoke first. Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper. The carpet in the living room is ruined. Grape juice. It will never come out. I am sorry to hear that, I replied politely. But I assume you did not come all this way to discuss stain removal. Sarah looked up. Her eyes were red. We missed the gala, she said. Her voice cracked. Mark and we fought the entire night. We ended up ordering pizza and eating it on the floor while the boys threw wrapping paper at each other. It was the worst Christmas of my life. I looked at her. I felt a twinge of sympathy, but I crushed it. Sympathy was how they got me back in the cage. I imagine it was difficult, I said. It is hard to manage 5 children when you are not used to doing the work. Why did you do it, Elena? Sarah asked, tears spilling over. Why did you hate us that much? To leave us stranded like that? To humiliate us? I leaned forward. The anger I had been suppressing flared up, hot and bright. I did not hate you, I said. I loved myself. There is a difference. I looked from my sister to my mother. For 10 years, you have treated me like an employee who you did not have to pay. You volunteered my time without asking. You dismissed my feelings. You made me feel like my only value in this family was how much I could suffer for your convenience. My mother looked down at her hands. I wanted everyone to be together. I wanted it to be perfect. No, Mother, I said firmly. You wanted it to be easy. For you. And you were willing to sacrifice my happiness to get it. You lied to Sarah. You told her I promised when I told you no. You created that chaos. Not me. The room went silent again. The truth hung in the air. Undeniable. My mother let out a shaky breath. I suppose I did rely on you too much. I got used to you always being there. I forgot that you had a choice. You forgot I was a person. I corrected her. She nodded slowly. Yes, maybe I did. Sarah wiped her eyes. So what happens now? Do we just never speak again? Is the family broken? That depends on you, I said. I stood up. I walked to the window and looked out at the city. I felt tall. I felt strong. Things are going to change, I announced, turning back to face them. If you want me in your lives, here are the new rules. Rule number 1. You never volunteer my time again. If you need a favor, you ask me directly. And if I say no, that is the end of the conversation. No guilt trips, no begging. No going behind my back. My mother nodded. Okay, rule number 2, I continued. I am not the default babysitter. If I choose to watch the kids, it is because I want to spend time with my nieces and nephews as their aunt, not because you want a night off to party. If you want a babysitter, you hire a professional, and you pay them. Sarah looked down, but she nodded too. I understand. And rule number 3, I said, my voice dropping to a serious low tone. The next time you try to manipulate me or trick me or treat me like I am less than you because I am single, I will not just leave for 5 days. I will leave for good. And I will not answer the phone when you call. I let the threat hang there. They knew I meant it. They had seen the empty apartment. They had heard the dial tone. They knew now that I was capable of walking away. My mother stood up. She walked over to me. She looked older than she ever had before. "I am sorry, Elena," she said. "I truly am. We pushed you too far. It wasn't a perfect apology. It didn't erase the years of neglect. But it was a start." "It has to be different, Mom," I said. "It will be," she promised. They left shortly after. I closed the door behind them and locked it. I went back to my armchair and sat down. The apartment was quiet, but it wasn't the lonely quiet that I used to feel. It was the peaceful quiet of a space that I owned, inhabited by a woman who finally owned herself. I had lost the title of the good daughter. I had lost the reputation of being the easy one. But as I looked around my life, at the boundaries I had finally built, I realized I didn't mind. Being the villain in their story was a small price to pay for being the hero in mine. I poured myself a glass of wine, the same kind I had drunk in Aspen. I raised a toast to the empty room. To chaos, I whispered, and to the beautiful, necessary act of letting it burn. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel.